Let's talk about filtering objects in PowerShell. So I'm going to do a quick, let's do a get service here real quick. Get service. And I'm going to go ahead and pipe that to more. So you're going to see we've got a bunch of services here. Some are running, some are stopped. All right, we know how we can use select object to select different properties. And this gets a little bit confusing because when we think of select object, we think, all right, that's what we should use to filter it. I want this object, this object, this object. Okay, that's actually not what select object does. Select object selects different properties of an object. If I want to filter, what I need to use is a new commandlet called where object. And you'll take a bunch of objects from the pipeline and it will return objects where a specific condition is true. This is going to be an important thing. The condition has to be true in order for them to be displayed. So let's take a look at this. So this is showing us our running and our stopped services. So let me try this. I only want to view my running services. So I'm going to do select, I'm going to do get service, and I'm going to pipe that to where object. And now we'll frequently use a funky little syntax here with where object, and it's curly bracket, $_period. All right, so let's talk about what this means. Anything within curly brackets is a script block, and that tells PowerShell, hey, I need to process something here. $_ says, look at each object in the pipeline one at a time. And then the dot says, look at this particular property of the object. So I want to look at the status property. So $_period status says look at each object in the pipeline one at a time, look at the status, and this is going to be my comparison. It's -EQ. -EQ means this has to equal. And there's a bunch of other ones. So GT is greater than, LE is less than, GE is greater than or equal to, LE is less than or equal to. For text, you could do CEQ, which is case sensitive equals, otherwise it's not case sensitive. You do not equals is any, so lots of different comparison operators. And you can actually, if you do a search for the help topic about comparison operators, it'll break them all down for you. So I want everything that's equal to running. Now I didn't do a case sensitive equal, so I just did EQ, so running with a lowercase will be the same as running with an uppercase R. I'm going to go ahead and pipe this through more. And now you'll see that we have all of our objects that are running that match that particular criteria. So let's break this down again. Get service gathers up all of my services. We pipe it to where object. And where object is going to look at each one in sequence, look for the status, and if that status equals running, then that will be true. All comparisons are going to result in either a true or a false. If it's true, it'll continue on the pipeline. If it's false, it'll get discarded from the pipeline. So the only thing that's left now to be piped through is all of my objects where the status equals running. So what if I did a status to something that doesn't exist? Let's do where status equals confused. This isn't going to return me anything. Now, it processed perfectly. It got all of the services, went through every service one at a time, looked for one where the status was confused, because confused isn't actually a valid status. It didn't find any, so there was nothing left for the more to process. All right, that's all there is to where object. Well, that's most of what there is to where object. What if I wanted everything that was stopped? Well, stopped is a valid status. So I'm going to look for everything that all my services that are stopped. And same thing, goes through every one. Anything that's not stopped is dropped from the pipeline, and then I have a list of only my stopped services. Okay, I made an issue earlier that the where object provides either a true or a false. Now, you'll see here these three properties, can pause and continue, can shut down, can stop, all are Boolean. Now, a Boolean value is either true or false. So let's take a look and see what this will look like. I'm going to do a get service. I'm just going to take all of them. Actually, let's do just our running services. That'll simplify things out a little bit. Where object, you can also just use where, that's a shortcut for it. Where object $_ status equals running. And then I want to select object for each one of those. I want to display the name, the status, and I want to display whether it can stop. And so here you're going to see can stop, and let's pipe that so we can see the header at the top rather than having to scroll back up. So can stop is going to be either a true or a false value. Now this is really interesting because it lets us do something else with the where object. So I'm going to do a get service where object dot can stop. I'm just going to stop at that point. No pun intended. Let me select the name. Let's do select object. We'll do the whole thing, although select will work. It's an alias for it. Name and can stop, and pipe that to more. Now notice I didn't do an EQ here. Anytime you do a comparison operator, the result is a true or false. Well, the Boolean value is already true or false. So it's going to give me everything that can stop. Anything that has false there doesn't show up. What if I wanted to view the false ones? Well, by the way, I can't do can stop equals false. This is actually going to confuse it because false is not this false here is a text. And so it really can't compare that very well. So what if I wanted things where can stop is a false? So what I'm going to do is where can stop, and remember that returns everything that's true, right? Let's do a pipe that to select, and we'll just rerun this so we can see it again. Select object name and can stop, pipe that to more, and sure enough, that's everything that's true. All right, there is a exclamation point we can use. So if we put an exclamation point in it, exclamation point turns a true to a false and a false to a true. It's basically a not. So if you read this, it would be get service where object not can stop, which means can stop would equal false. And this is going to show me everything where can stop is false. So anything that is a Boolean value, you can put just $_period the property name. And then if you want the opposite of that, you put an exclamation point in front of it. All right, what if I want to see everything that is running that can't stop? All right, so for this, I'm going to need a conjunction, right? So I want $_period can stop, and I wanted everything that couldn't stop, right? So I'm going to put an exclamation point in front of it. Can stop is false. And then and $_period status dash equals running. So this little dash and says this condition has to be true, can stop is false. This condition has to be true, status equals running. I can also use a dash or, which means one or the other has to be true. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to pipe that to select object. And for this, I'm going to need to display the name, the status, and whether it can stop, just to make sure that this works. So now everything that we have that's just returned is both running and can stop. All right, so that's using the where object commandlet. Now let's play with this just a little bit more. We'll run one more example. So let's say I want to look at my event log. So I'm going to do get event log. I want to look at the system log, and I want to look at the newest 20 entries. Whoops. That'll work better. Newest 20 entries. All right, that shows me that I have some warning indicators here for DCOM. Let me dig into that a little bit. So I want to do get event log. Now, filtering, this right here filtered for me, right? It gave me the newest 20, and I can do the same thing with select object, show me the first 20. But if well, let me show you how this works. If I do a get system newest 20, that's going to filter out the first 20 items in my event log. Now if I try to filter that, and let's say I want the top 20 things that are warnings, I'll do a where object $_ period, and this is the entry type. Entry type equals warning. Now, this actually won't give me my first 20 warnings. Get event log. That's my problem. There we go. All right, that didn't give me my newest 20 warnings, did it? And the reason it didn't is because it gave me the top 20 event logs. It filtered here, and then it filtered again here. So out of those top 20 entries from my event log, my system event log, it only returned the ones that matched warnings. So if I want my top 20 warnings, I have to do this a little bit differently. So this is what it would look like. Get event log from the system where object $_ period entry type is equal to warning. That'll get all of them for me. And then I'll select object for the first 20. And that should give me my first 20 warnings. Okay, so you'll see how the difference between those two commands in the pipeline. This got everything. This gave me only things that were warnings. That gave me the first 20 of them. Versus this one, which gave me the first 20, and then from those 20 gave me only ones that were warnings. All right, let's look at this a little bit more. I know there are things other than warnings in my event log, right? So we've got information, we've got warning, we've got errors. What if I want everything that's not an information item? So for that, I would do get event log system, pipe that to where object, again, $_ period, look at each object and look at the entry type. And this time I want everything that's not a warning, whether it's an error or critical or everything that's not information. So there's error, critical, George, whatever. So I can do -NE, which is not equal to. So everything that's not equal to information. Shoot, I should have filtered that to the top 20. So select object first 20. And that gives me my first 20 entries. And notice I have warnings here and I have errors here. Also notice I have these from a couple of different sources. I have DCOM and I have Microsoft Windows something else here. Name resolution error. Okay. Let's say I wanted to filter down to entry types that were going to be warnings or errors, but I don't care about DCOM, right? So I know DCOM is fine. I'm not using it anyway. Who cares? So I want to get everything that's not an information item and not from DCOM. Well, this is where I can add that additional and $_ period, look at everything one by one, dot source is not equal to DCOM. And now that should give me my first 20 things that are not information items and are not from DCOM. So this is how we can use that where object to filter through all of our objects. Remember, it'll take any object or any group of objects, and using this $_ period, it'll look at each object one at a time, look at a particular property, do a comparison, which will return either a true or a false. If that is true, it passes it down the pipeline. If it's false, it drops it. Now, some commandlets have filtering built in. So get service bits filters down to just that one service, right? It's the same as doing get service where object $_ name equals bits. And it returns the same thing. Now I said it's the same. It actually does process a little bit differently. Here, get service filters to just that one object. Here, get service gathers all of my services, and then I've got to process all of my services again. So this one actually takes a little bit longer, which leads us to an observation. When possible, filter left. And what we mean by that is filter as soon as you can in the pipeline. So this is more efficient than this because we filtered farther left. So if we can filter left, it actually works a little bit better. It gives us the same results, but it takes less processing time, less processing power to do it. So filter left as much as possible. If your commandlet will let you filter, that's great. If not, where object will filter any type of object generated by any type of commandlet. We just need to use this funky little syntax here, and it will work perfectly. And this is one of the places where PowerShell looks for this particular syntax. Okay, hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you can filter objects when you are working with PowerShell.